Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network and iHeartRadio. Welcome to Hunting for Answers, a true crime podcast. I'm your host, Hunter. In Union City, Georgia, a young mother is home with her infant daughter. It's the middle of the day. Her husband is at work. Inside the apartment, everything is quiet, routine, normal, until there's a knock at the door. Someone is outside, and in that moment, the door is opened. What happens next happens inside that home. When her husband returns, he finds his wife unresponsive, their baby still inside. This is the story of Michelle Sparkle Ray. Michelle Sparkle Ray was 22 years old. She was a mother, a newlywed, and she was just starting to build a life of her own. She and her husband, Rajiv Ricky Ray, had recently gotten married. They were raising their infant daughter together, starting fresh in Georgia. To the people close to her, this was a new beginning, a new family, a future that was just getting started. But that future wasn't supported by everyone. In court, prosecutors presented evidence that there was deep disapproval within the family. Testimony would later suggest that some of that disapproval was rooted in strong objections to who Sparkle was and the marriage itself, and to the life she and Ricky were building together. On April 26, 2000, Sparkle was inside her apartment. Her husband was at work. At some point that day, there was a knock at the door. Testimony would later indicate that two young women were at the door, that they did not force their way in. They asked to use the bathroom. The door was opened, and at some point, another person is believed to have entered the home. What happens next unfolds inside that apartment. Sparkle was attacked. She was stabbed and strangled. When Ricky returned home, he found her unresponsive. Their infant daughter was still there, unharmed. In the hours that followed, investigators began working the scene. There were no signs of forced entry, and nothing appeared to have been taken. The scene raised questions, but without clear leads. The case began to slow. And over time, answers became harder to find. The questions remained. Who had been let inside? And why did this happen? For years, there was little progress, until 2004, when new information changed the direction of the case. A woman in custody on an unrelated case shared details that brought detectives back to Sparkle's death. What followed was a series of interviews that began to link people to each other and to what happened that day. As investigators looked closer, they began to notice connections. One name led to another. People who knew each other. Conversations that didn't seem random. And as more information came in, those connections became harder to ignore. Prosecutors would later argue that this had been set in motion ahead of time, and as the focus of the investigation shifted, it moved closer to home. In court, prosecutors presented evidence that the plan to kill Sparkle did not start at her door. Testimony described an arrangement that moved through multiple people, one person passing it to another until it reached a man who agreed to carry it out for money. Prosecutors identified him as Cleveland Clark. And as investigators followed those connections, the focus turned to someone closer to the family. Sparkle's father-in-law, Chimon Ray. Prosecutors said he had sought to have her killed. They also presented phone records and money transfers that they said connected the people involved in the days leading up to the murder. Their theory was that this was a murder-for-hire plot, one that began long before anyone knocked on that door. As the case moved through the courts in 2006, multiple people were charged in connection with the case. In 2008, Chimon Ray went to trial. A jury found him guilty on all counts related to the killing. He was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, plus additional time. In 2009, Cleveland Clark was also convicted. He was originally sentenced to death. Years later, after extended legal proceedings, that sentence was changed to life without parole, plus 25 years. More than 2 decades after her death, the case has now moved through the courts. But what happened still doesn't fully settle. A young mother at home, a door that should have been safe to open, and a plan that, based on the evidence presented, had already been set in motion. Our thoughts are with Michelle Sparkle Ray's family and loved ones. As we close this episode, remember to share her story. Sparkle mattered, and her life should not have ended this way. For more cases and updates, follow Hunting for Answers. You can also connect with us through our Facebook group and find us on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. If there's a story you believe deserves attention, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining us for another episode. Until next time. Hunting for Answers is a production of the Black Effect Podcast Network. For more podcasts from the Black Effect Podcast Network, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.